Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Great Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Well, here it is another Wednesday, and today is the day. It's the last day of the Festival of the Maiden. So, at last we bid adieu. Our Festival of the Maiden, our delightful holiday, is coming to an end for another year. And there were certain things that I really didn't discuss in very great detail this year, all of the special activities and special days during the Festival of the Maiden. I really didn't discuss it, but hope you all at least had a ritual bath. I really enjoyed your ritual bath. I made it special for yourself. Main idea behind a ritual bath is to cleanse the whole entire body, not just physically, but also spiritually as well. It's very special to say a prayer over your bath and imagine yourself being cleansed. Imagine your soul being cleansed. Now this year is a little bit different. Just a little bit different this year. So, you may think to yourself, well, how could it be different this year? How could the Festival of the Maiden never be different? Isn't the Festival of the Maiden always about pure goodness? Pure love, pure goodness, pure love, pure innocence, the innocence of a child, pure innocence, pure goodness, and purity. Well, this is the year of Maleficent. So now we're going to get into a sketchy subject that is kind of hard to discuss. It's kind of hard to discuss and it's hard to wrap your head around. But I'm going to get into the sketchy subject of the Dark Maiden. And this is really sketchy because it goes against what you think of the innocence of childhood, right? It goes against it. It goes the other way against what you imagine as the innocence of childhood and the purity of childhood and the goodness of childhood. But people have these fantastic notions in their minds of what childhood is and isn't, what childhood should and shouldn't be. And as we all know, all you have to do is read a Peanuts comic and see what happens to poor Charlie Brown. Poor Charlie Brown. Kids are so cruel to him. They're so cruel and they're so mean. They're so vicious to Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is proof that the Maiden is not all goodness and light. She's not all purity. There's also a dark side to the Maiden. And we'll discuss this. We'll explore this subject. Kids are cruel. Kids are cruel. They're cruel. Kids are mean. And the problem with kids is that they're not thinking about it. They're just thoughtlessly mean. They're thoughtlessly mean. They're thoughtlessly vicious and cruel. Sometimes it's deliberate. Kids can be deliberate, but it's never elaborate. It's never an elaborate plan except when they get older. When they get older, then they think of setups. They think of setups and they think of plots when they get older. But in their original innocence, they're not thinking of setups and plots. They're just thoughtlessly cruel. Like, think of a 4-year-old being thoughtlessly cruel. 4-year-old doesn't want to... I met a really, really negative 4-year-old once, okay? There was something wrong with her. This 4-year-old, she was so negative. She was steeped in negativity. I never met anyone so negative before my entire life. She hated me. She hated me, but she hated everyone. She was so angry. She was so vicious. She was so mean. She was always thinking of ways to get even and things that she'll do, things that she'll say to get you in trouble with her grandma. And, oh boy, she was a hellion. She was a total hellion, this little girl, only 4 years old. So, realizing, not at the time realizing it, but sort of on some level in my mind, comprehending that this is a manifestation of the dark goddess, I began being kind to her, being nice to her, making arguments against the negative things she said, working on her. I began working on her. And worked on her and worked on her and worked on her. One day, she was actually nice to me. She was actually nice to me. And I smiled. I was pleased. Finally got her to be nice for once to me. And then her mother turned around and said, "Oh, she's got you fooled too." And I was like, what the F is this? And I said, "What do you mean?" I just stared that mother down. I was only 14, but I stared that mother down. I just stared right at her. Like, what do you mean? I just stared at her in disbelief and disgust and actually hatred of that mother. Because that little girl, reason she was so negative, the reason she was so mean and vicious and cruel, was her mother. It was her mother. Something wasn't right in that family. Some sort of abuse going on behind the scenes. Whether it's verbal abuse, or emotional abuse, or whether it was actually physical or sexual abuse. I don't know. But for some reason that little girl was influenced by her mother to be very, very, very negative. She was being abused and was able to get the girl to open up and be positive. That her mother smacked that right down. She smacked that right down. So, when you think about these kids that were mean to you in school, these bullies, ones that point at you and say, ha ha, fat girl, you're fat. Or, even if you're not fat, they say you're fat. Just to be bullies, just to be mean. And then maybe you even begin putting on weight because they're calling you fat all the time. That happened to me. I wasn't fat, and then they began calling me fat, and then I put on weight. That happens. Yeah, it does happen. Where boys call a girl fat, and then she puts on weight. That happens. They'll call anyone fat. And then if you're really skinny, if you're just skin and bones, ha, you're too skinny. Ha, your body isn't right for us. We're just going to make fun of you no matter what you do or what you say. We're just going to make fun of your body. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from their parents. Parents taught them, this person's fat, that person's fat, this person is ugly, that person is ugly, that person's too skinny, this person's too skinny. They learned it from their parents. Really, it's a form of abuse. Because their parents are leading them astray. Now, what does this tell us about the Dark Maiden? What do we know about the Dark Maiden? What is she really like? Well, the Maiden represents goddess at her base, at her root. Just like from babyhood onward, and when she was young before it's the goddess her whole time, her time, not our time, but her time before she created the universe. So that's the maiden. The maiden is the very beginnings. We look at the very beginnings before the universe was ever created. When the maiden was just dawning, it was just the dawn of time. There was a seed in there of the dark maiden. The dark maiden diverged very young and very early. Not at the very beginning, but very early on. The dark maiden emerged from the light goddess and diversified. It was very early on. And this dark maiden was not separate from goddess. She was a part of goddess. But she was focused in on the negative. Just like these children, she was thoughtlessly cruel. She was cruel in ways that were innocent to our eyes, but which were not quite nice, not quite good, not quite right. And with time, goddess's time, it built up and up and up because she was diversifying. She's spreading out like this. She like a natural growth, like the branches of a tree. Branches of a tree grow like this. They grow like this and they spread out like this. And then the branches get branches. The branches get branches. And then those branches get branches. That's how the goddess grew. And as her mind grew and became more complex with time, as she became more complex, and she's still becoming more complex. The maiden is still alive today because she's still more complex. She's still growing. Here's something you should all know about goddess religion. Christianity says, and maybe Judaism too, I'm not sure, but Christianity says our God is always the same. Never changes, never grows. He's the same yesterday, he's the same today, and he's the same tomorrow for all eternity. Why? Why? Because a God that's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow is very reliable, very comforting to human beings to have something that's always the same. It's a God for humanity. It's a God created by humanity to serve humanity. In other words, it's not man serving God. God has to serve man. It serves a purpose. And also the God is all good. How is the goddess different? She's just the opposite. Every single moment of existence, and even beyond this existence, goddess is changing. She's changing every single second. And even the spaces between seconds, she's changing. She's constantly changing. Another thing about goddess is that she does have a dark side. Why would I say this? Because the goddess is this way. That is the way she is. She is not there to serve us. She is not there to be what we all wish she would be or what we want her to be. No. She is there. We are there to serve her. Believe it or not. We are there to serve her. Why? Why would she want us to serve her? What? Doesn't that seem kind of selfish? Like, why would she be so selfish? Well, yeah, she was selfish. But she saw early on that it was okay to be selfish. She saw in her wisdom that it was okay as a goddess for her to be selfish. And so she created us because she was looking for servants, not slaves, but souls to serve her. And she would hope that we would serve her willingly, just like a domestic servant would serve someone willingly, and maybe for pay too. So we're not working for Goddess for free. We get things from her. We get sustenance and we get life from her. And in return, we give her things. Well, what are people who don't even believe in Goddess giving her? Well, even when they don't believe in her, they're giving her plenty. They're giving her drama. They're doing good works in the world. They're learning and growing and expanding Goddess. Because Goddess is in each of us. So they're serving her without even intending to, without even wanting to, without even knowing. Yeah, without even knowing and without even intending to or wanting to. Just, even in their resistance, they're still serving her because they can't help it. Because she made them that way to serve her. So, if you doubt that you serve Goddess, don't doubt it anymore. If you've ever done anything good in your life, if you've ever changed in some way, if you ever grew, if you ever, and everyone grows. How can you help but grow? If you ever learned anything in your life, if you ever became a better person or changed in some way, even if you just had a job and just did menial labor, any way that you may, anything you may have done in this world for the better for yourself or others, you were serving Goddess without even intending to. So yeah, and naturally she would like your worship. And you all say, oh, we're Goddess believers. We're not Goddess worshippers, we're Goddess believers. We hate worship, hate worship. We'll never worship Goddess, ever. We believe in her. We want to be her. We want to become her. We want to be like her. We want to be served and worshipped like her by others. But we never will worship her, ever. We'll never give her our worship. That's fine. You can be a Goddess believer if you want to be. That's fine. No pressure. No pressure whatsoever. I'm not going to pressure you. Why would I pressure you? Goddess wouldn't pressure you, so why would I? Of course there's no pressure. Of course you don't have to worship her if you don't want to. But just remember that even if you don't want to, you're still serving her. Even when you don't worship her, even if you won't give her even one scrap of worship because you despise worship, you're still serving her. And you do worship her too. I bet you don't like hearing that. I bet you don't like hearing that you're worshiping her. Even if you don't want to, and even if you deny it, and even if you hate it. How could you be worshiping Goddess without even believing in her? Why do I say that all men give their worship to Goddess? And that they are all her lovers? Why would I say that? Because men are lovers of knowledge. Men seek knowledge constantly. Men are lovers of wisdom. The Bible itself says the Goddess is wisdom. It may be the Apocrypha, but it's still part of the Bible. And so if you read the Wisdom of Solomon, it's a beautiful tribute to the Goddess. It's apocryphal, but it's a beautiful tribute to Goddess, the Wisdom of Solomon. It's not strictly correct, but it's still very nice read. It's a nice read. So if you love knowledge, if you're a lover of knowledge and a seeker of knowledge, if you're a lover of wisdom, a wisdom and a seeker of wisdom, that you're worshiping Goddess without even realizing it. Isn't that great? You don't even want to worship her, and you don't believe in worship because you believe that worship is evil. Because worship is like a form of slavery, right? Is it slavery? Not really. Worship is not slavery, but some people see it as that worship is evil, is an evil. They see worship as an evil. But these people who see worship as an evil and refuse to worship, I suppose you hate knowledge and you hate wisdom. You don't want anything to do with it. You still might be worshiping Goddess and serving her. How else could you worship Goddess? Could just be something as simple as sex. You love the divine female form. You worship bodies. You're still worshiping Goddess because she created those bodies, right? She's still got ya. She's still got ya. And even if you're like a woman, there's still the Adonis worshiping the male form, which was created by Goddess. So you can't escape. There's no escape from worshiping Goddess, even if you try. Isn't that terrific? You didn't even know that, did you? But back to the Dark Maiden. Let's get back to the Dark Maiden. She diverged very early from the main goddess when the goddess was diversifying. When the goddess was diversifying and spreading out like the branches of a tree, the Dark Maiden emerged very early on. And she was integrated like this. So the branches didn't just spread out like this, it was also like this. They were interwoven. So these branches that were interwoven, the goddess was enmeshed. Part of her was dark and part of her was light. And Goddess looked at this and saw the difference. She saw the difference. She began labeling things. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is evil. This is darkness. This is light. She began to separate them. Kind of like what they say in the Bible, too. Yeah, it's kind of like the Bible, too, where they said that the God separated the darkness from the light. She allowed her dark side, which was a part of her and integrated with her, to have her own name, to have her own personality, to be a separate persona, because she separated part of herself and allowed this part of herself to have a separate persona. This separate persona of Goddess became her own person. Still a part of Goddess, still integrated, but became her own person, emerged from her. This very strong personality, the very beginning of dawn of time, was the Dark Maiden. And what is the Dark Maiden? Well, she is a part of Maleficent. She's a Maleficent as a child. So picture the Maleficent goddess. Yeah, with the curly horns, right? Maleficent. As a young girl, as a maiden. Now, was she wronged in some way? No, she wasn't wronged. She wasn't wronged because there were no other beings other than herself. She wasn't wronged. She was just a natural emergence of infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities and infinite creativity. That's how she emerged originally. before there were even any creations, before she even thought of creations. She emerged as a separate entity, a separate personality of her own. Maleficent did, just as a child, a thoughtlessly cruel child. This was even before there was ever any sex. There was no sex. She was just a thoughtlessly cruel child, and grew and grew until she became Maleficent. Maleficent the Mother. And we're getting to that. We're going to celebrate the Festival of the Mother pretty soon. And when we celebrate the Festival of the Mother, I'll explore Maleficent Mother. But right now we're talking about Maleficent the Maiden. Maleficent Maiden. This Maleficent Maiden, because let's face it, it's not very nice saying dark goddess, because the association of darkness with evil is could be considered racist, could be considered untruthful or unfactual or harmful in other ways. So I just said dark goddess to give you a certain grounding, to give you a certain idea of what I'm talking about. We're talking about the emergence of evil in the universe. And even before there was a universe, the emergence of evil in the Creator. And the dark side of the Creator, the evil in the Creator, we call that Maleficent as a substitute for the word dark. Instead of calling her dark goddess, we call her Maleficent goddess. So this Maleficent Maiden, she was very young. She was young. She wasn't pure. And what is evil? What do we mean by evil? Well, we're told by New Agers, and maybe some Christians too, but New Agers, evil is just the darkness to the light. It's just an absence of light. Evil is just an absence of light. Evil is not only an absence of light, but it's an absence of goodness. It's just the absence of goodness. Wrong. Wrong. I'm doing this. This is me pointing. Wrong. Wrong. Evil is not the absence of goodness. No. The absence of goodness is neutrality. And yes, there's a lot that's neutral in this universe. The universe is mostly neutral. So the absence of goodness is not evil. Evil has a character all its own. What is this character of evil? What is the overwhelming, overarching character of evil? It's not the absence. It's not darkness. Evil is chaos. And I'm sure you've all heard the word chaos before. Anarchists love the word chaos. They like to create chaos. But isn't anarchy evil in a way? I think anarchy is evil. It's choosing evil. Evil is chaos. Evil is the light. Oh yeah. Evil is the light. Evil is white. Evil is white and evil is the light. You see evil spirits. Evil spirits. Shining beings. Bright white. Like the sun. They glow like the sun. They're bright white. Shining beings. So evil is not the darkness, and evil isn't the absence of goodness. Evil is chaos. And when you introduce chaos into your own spirit, you become evil. It's chaos. It's an absence of order. It's an absence of nicely ordered, nicely neutral. Chaos, you could see it as a pattern, as a mathematical pattern. It's math. Starts as mathematics. Chaos emerges and it spreads. You can see a very mixed up pattern. When you take that mixed up pattern and you apply it, this mixed up mathematical pattern, you apply this chaos to, for example, emotions, feelings, concepts, thoughts, ideas. It emerges as evil. It might be hard to actually imagine that mathematics can emerge as an idea or a concept, but it does. It does. There's so much mathematics in this world. Chaos, muddied up pattern, all chaotic and jumbled and mixed up. This chaos, this bad, mixed up pattern, emerges in the world of ideas as evil. So it's chaos. And we see human forms. Human forms are very beautiful. They're all very beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful human forms that we have. These human bodies that we have, they're very beautiful. Okay? What's an example of chaos in the human body? Well, it would be like cancer, right? Cancer kills the human body. Cancer is the introduction of chaos into your DNA. And cancer is evil. Who would deny that cancer killing people is a great evil? It's horrendous evil. So chaos, you can see it in the physical form. But the physical form is a manifestation of the spiritual form. So you can see in the physical form, you see this very orderly body, that's very beautiful. You can see the same beauty in the spiritual forms too. You can see in the spiritual forms, very orderly body that's very beautiful and very elegant, very nice to look at, very well ordered, very beautiful. Beauty is a manifestation of the good. So when you see this very orderly, well-ordered body that on all of its parts is structured and elegant in its structure, that's a manifestation of the good in spirit. So what is corruption? Corruption is the introduction of chaos into your spirit, which is very simple. And it's a manifestation of Maleficent, because Maleficent is the original chaos that was introduced into Goddess, the creator. She's the creator. Maleficent is a creator. Yes, she is. She's a creator just as much as the rest of Goddess. Maleficent creates evil. She's always creating evil. She's always creating every single second. She's creating new evil and new evil forms and new evil ideas. Always creating. But it's all chaos that she creates. This Maleficent is very powerful because she's the mother of chaos. The mother of chaos is incredibly powerful. She's powerful because there's a lot of complexity to her. Chaos is very complex. It can be broken down into mathematical forms, but it's very complex. And there's not really such a thing as pure chaos. There's just increasing complexity. So as the universe expands outward, like this, and we know the universe is expanding, the chaos increases. Chaos increases and order breaks down. So we're moving toward Maleficent. What do you think of that? We're moving toward Maleficent. But it will all be for the best in the end, because we're becoming incorruptible as a result. We know that exposure to this chaos and dealing with this chaos and coping with this chaos makes the spirit stronger and more resilient. And with the strength and the more resiliency, the ability to resist chaos, resist evil, is a manifestation of becoming incorruptible. Just making us incorruptible is spirit. Where we're actually these really powerful angels, can go into the war zone like soldiers and root out evil. That's an incredible ability. Just to think that Goddess can do that with us, make us these soldiers. Christians have similar concepts. It's nothing new. It's an old spiritual concept. Old spiritual concepts. The analogy of soldiers. Incorruptible spirits, that's what it is. Spirits who have been exposed to evil and know how to deal with it, and know how to cope with it, and know how to root it out. So, the Dark Maiden was there in the beginning. Maleficent Maiden was there. She emerged very early, very young from Goddess. It became a persona. She grew. Her persona grew as Goddess grew. She became Maleficent. And then, when the universe was born, she became a Maleficent mother. At the moment the universe was born, she became a Maleficent mother, but as the universe aged, she became the Maleficent crone. So now we know how the goddess emerged. Some people say, well, a goddess shouldn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end, because the Creator is infinite and universal and eternal, right? But we have to realize that in Goddess's time, everything's jumbled together. So Maiden is piled on top of the Mother, is piled on top of the Crone. They all exist simultaneously with each other. And each of them deserves their own time in the wheel of the year to be recognized and to be honored. They should be honored. Even if you're not worshiping her, even if you deny worship and you're just a goddess believer, she needs a time to be honored. And honor is really a form of worship. You may not believe it, but it is. So, I would persuade you very strongly. I would just try my hardest, my very small effort to get you to see that you are already worshiping Goddess and that you should be worshiping her in ways that are meaningful to you, in symbolic ways, in more concrete ways. You should be honoring and celebrating the ways that you worship her, even if it means Book of the Month Club, right? Book of the Month Club, or spending time with a lover, I don't know, taking a nature walk, enjoying nature. All of those could be ways that you're worshiping Goddess. So I would encourage you to honor the symbolism by worshiping her in more concrete ways. And you may say, well, the Goddess is me. I'm the Goddess. I'm the Goddess. There is no big creator. It's just little me Just little me and all the other little me's. We're the goddess. She's not there. It's us. We're the goddess, and we're going to claim her worship. I would just ask you very gently, where did all those little me's come from? Where did they come from? Where did all these little me's come from? Well, all children have a mama, right? You have to think, who's the big mama? And I would suggest that this big mama, big mama, is goddess. Think about her. Think about this big mama for a change. For once in your life, for a change. Think about this big mama. You may not like her. You may not like there being a big creator. But within all the realms of possibility, she's the most real of all the possibilities. She's maybe even more real than all these little me's that you see. By me's, I mean me, and also me. All these little me's that you see. Goddess is arguably more real than all of those. So why not worship her today? So I leave you with this. Worship the Maleficent Maiden tonight. Give Maleficent Maiden your worship. I suggest Easter candy. Easter candy is, chocolate is such a sinful indulgence because it makes you fat, right? So it's a sinful indulgence. It's not good for you. Offer her candy. That's what I did. I offered her candy and I offered her some brandy. And just for today. Just for today, offer her some candy. You don't have to offer her brandy because it is the Maleficent Maiden. Maybe the maiden shouldn't be drinking, but she likes candy. So offer her some candy, some chocolate candy, and pray to Maleficent Maiden. She's good for new beginnings. New beginnings, new projects. Anything that's young, anything that's new, anything that's the beginning of something. Maleficent. She's the mother of chaos, right? So when things get hairy, and when things get ugly, when things get chaotic, she's right there in the middle of it. I'll go like this. She's right there in the middle of that chaos. So because she created it, she can also undo it. So she can really help you out if you're worshiping her. So I would suggest at the beginning of a new venture that you give a little love, just a little bit of love to Maleficent Maiden at the beginning of a venture, so that things will go well for you. Just a suggestion, no pressure at all. But I do suggest that you start worshiping. Goddess. Even if you only worship her good side, but that's really good to worship Maleficent because she can give you great wisdom and insight into the nature and problems of evil. She knows evil better than anyone. She wants you to be good. Maleficent does. It's all to the good. Because she's integrated. She's whole in her desires. Goddess is whole in her desires. And she's integrated and one in her will. Her will's directed, and it's directed toward the good. But Maleficent can give you great insights into the nature of evil and the nature of chaos. You can get these insights and see right inside. You can go right in to the issue at hand and see what the issue at hand is. So I do suggest this. I suggest that you try it out just once. Try offering some Easter candy to Maleficent. Yeah, Easter candy only comes once a year. If you don't want to use Easter candy, you can just use an ordinary candy bar. Candy of your choice. And then offer it to Maleficent Maiden. Just to see if it makes a difference in your life. She might impart some great wisdom to you. She saw evil at its root and its very beginnings, what it was like in the beginning. She might be able to give you some great wisdom and some great insight, if nothing else. So that's it. Worship the Maleficent Maiden tonight. Give her your worship. Offer her some candy, some leftover candy, and pray to her for wisdom and insights. And I'll see you next time.